Now, as part of your lockdown work, I want you to get more to grips with Gravit.com. If you remember, that was the graphics software that we started using just towards the end of last term. And you're going to design yourself one of these USB lamps. So you'll be designing how it locks together and some sort of shape to cut out the side of it, so the light comes through. And also you can add these lines as well, which we call engraved lines. That's where the laser just burns part way through the wood. So the website you need to go to is Gravit.com. Now we need to think about how things join together. One of the great things, once you've got the hang of this software, you can really start making anything you want. I've been working on a little sort of robot type thing, so run by a microbit. Switch that on and it will beep up a whole few things. It's going to work. And then do different sort of commands on the button. But again, laser cutting the base and so forth. Off it goes. Where's the power switch? Okay, so this idea here. Now, most of the plywood we're going to use is 3mm thick. That means the thickness there to there on the timber we'll be using is 3mm. So that means the depth of your joints from here to here also needs to be 3mm, so the two can fit together nicely. Now, this is just a drawing of a finger joint. It's got lots of sort of joints in. Our ones can be a lot simpler. Okay, so we're going to go into Gravit now. I'm just going to move myself down here and make myself a bit smaller as well. So when you go into Gravit, generally work on a standard paper size. We don't have to for the laser cutter, but to start with, it just makes things a bit smoother. So choose print and either choose A4 or A3 paper. Okay, so now I'm working Gravit. Now, I don't need you to create the whole thing this week. I just want you to start to get the hang of using Gravit again, just so it's sort of something you can use without having to think how to use it. So we're going to start. I'm going to click down here. I'm going to start with a line tool. I'm going to draw a line, I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, and hey presto, I've drawn myself a line. No big surprise there. I'm going to click it again to draw another line. Notice how I've got the guide set up, so as I move around, this is really handy that it will spot halfway along something and the endpoints. But this time I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, but now I'm going to hold shift on the keyboard down. Now see, the end of the line isn't following the cursor. It's locking at 45-degree intervals. So I'm going to drag that along there like that. Now over here I've got the information about that line. It's got a height of 0 and a width of 74.26, just to make that clear. So the height is 0. So if I click on this one has a height of 16.33 and a width of 93. So if I was to start adjusting this, if I turn this to 0, no, it's gone back, and that one won't let me adjust it. So with this one, I'm going to take this and I'm going to change this to 50. So that's set to millimeters at the moment. Now, I'm going to want two of these. I'm just going to get rid of this one here. I'm going to put this one about here. I'm going to press Control and C on my keyboard and then V to paste it. Now it's pasted it immediately on top of it. So don't be mistaken that it hasn't done it. There's just two of them there. Now I want a vertical line to go either side. So vertical line, I'm going to set this to 100. So the point is here, you don't have to draw perfectly because you can just adapt things infinitely until you've got them how you want. Now I've got this little magnet clicked on permanently, so that just allows me to snap to things. You might want to get rid of it if it becomes a bit of a pain and things are jumping to places you don't want them to. So I'm going to copy, Control V, Control C, sorry, and Control V, and paste that one across. And now I've got my rectangle. Now at the moment I've got a rectangle that's made up of 4 lines. There was another way I could have drawn that, which was just to get a rectangle, draw the shape. I don't need to decide on the size yet, but now I'm going to change the width to 50 and the height to 100. Oh, should change that again. There we go. Now you notice this has got a fill color. This can't have a fill color at the moment because it's 4 separate objects, not a closed object. But I'm going to turn, it also doesn't have a border. So I'm going to turn the border on. I'm going to add a border here. And that's set it to a 1 pixel. 1 pixel width, so that's the width of the border. It's just a normal border and it's black. I could change the color if I wanted to. For the purposes of laser cutting, we just want to work in 2 colors. I'll come to that later, so just keep everything black for now. And we don't really want fill, so I can either change the fill to a plain color, but that means it's still got a fill. It's still a solid object, so if I move that over here, it covers it. What I actually want to do, because if I sent this to a laser cutter now, it would still cut that line down there, even though we couldn't see it because the line exists. So I actually just want to get rid of the fills. So I'm just going to turn that off like that. Okay, now let's just get rid of that. Okay, so that's 2 different ways of drawing a shape. The next thing we want to look at is this pen nib tool here. Now, just a tip, if you're not sure how to use something, just leave the cursor above it and it'll give you a little demonstration video. Very super handy. So, pen nib, it will just continually do a sort of dot to dot line. Now at the moment I'm just clicking, click, 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 and you'll see if I come up here, that little 0 appears and that will close it into a closed shape. You don't have to have it in a closed shape, it can be an open-ended shape. Now, at the moment, the black select arrow will just move it around and change the sort of aspect ratios of it, so squash, squeeze, stretch, that sort of thing. It will also reflect as well, so if I flip it completely over, that'll reflect it round. And this one here will rotate it. Okay, but if I wanted to fundamentally change the size of it, the shape of it, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose this sub-select. Now, sub-select allows me to move each anchor point. Now, if I wanted to say, actually, I want to add some more anchor points here, if I click directly on the line, you see that little icons coming up, that sort of squiggly line, it'll let me add more anchor points, so that gives me more control over things. If I've got too many, I can just highlight one and delete it. Now, at the moment, I'm drawing in straight lines. What I want to do is to be able to draw in a combination of straight lines and curved lines. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to drag. Sorry, I'm going to double click that. No, it's not letting me do it. There we go. And that brings out a curved line on either side. And I can control this by what I call a handle. So the little blue dots at the end here are handles. This is an anchor point. And these control the shape of the curve. And you can see this one is stopping that sort of go any further. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. And let's start to put this into practice. So I'm going to want to, if on my example of a USB lamp, I use the Academy logo, which is based on a shield. So let's have a think about how we would draw a shield. Now think about your shape to start with. Have an idea in your head about how you're going to draw it. A shield is symmetrical, so I only need to draw half of it. So I'm going to click and drag, and that takes me straight into curves. And then I kind of want to go, you see how that's giving me halfway. I don't want to finish it over here because the 2 points won't join. Click and drag again. Okay, and that'll do. If you notice how I just clicked away there, I could have also pressed escape on the keyboard. Now I'm not too happy with my shield shape at the moment. I want it to be a bit wider, and I'm also going to want to play around with this curve a bit. I want this to sweep out a bit more like this. I've got 2 choices here. I can sub-select and I can select here, and I can play around with the curve. And having less points along the curve generally will give you a smooth curve, but what I don't like is the way that's bulging out there. So I'm going to bring that back in, and I'm going to add myself another anchor point here, and I'm going to drag this out. So that's giving me more control over the curve. The danger of that is it can ruin the fluidity or the smoothness of the curve. I'm going to go back to my pointer here. I'm going to Command C or Control C, Control V to paste that. Remember, it's there, we just can't see it yet because it's immediately on top of the other one. I'm going to use these icons up here, which will reflect my object. So that'll flip horizontally, not what I want to do, so I'll flip it back, and that'll flip around the vertical axis. And then I can just join the 2 like that, and I've got my shield shape. If I'm not happy with it, I'll get rid of half of it. I'll carry on playing with the shape of it until I'm happy. I might spend a bit more detail working out this curve here. I might want to use the zoom tool to sort of really zoom in on a certain area and just focus on that a bit more. So this way I can sort of pay a lot more detail to my curves. You get the idea. If you're used to Adobe Illustrator, the same keyboard shortcuts work. So holding down Control and pressing 0 will recenter your screen. So if for some reason you've zoomed off to the side and you've lost your image, rather than spending forever trying to find it back, just hold down Control and press 0 and that recenters your screen. Okay, so what I want you doing this week is just playing around with Gravit, getting used to it. A lot of you managed to design the main part of your body anyway. So what I want you focusing on really is what sort of emblem are you going to put on here. It's totally up to you what you put on there. You've got a combination of what you can cut and what you can leave as an engraved line. Remember, when you cut something out, it's a whole shape that gets cut out. So some letters don't work, for example. An A won't work because you won't get a little bit left in the middle. Now, I'd like to see evidence of what you're doing. So what I'd like you to do is use the screen grab function, copy the sort of stuff you're doing, paste it into a Google slide so I can see how you're getting on with this. Okay guys, have lots of fun with it.